If you are a company director in the UK, you need to know the director's verification post-merger rules.
Hello and welcome. If you're a UK business owner, and especially if you're involved in a merger, you're going to want to listen very closely. This whole discussion has been put together by the expert tax advisors over at My Tax Accountant. You know, the excitement of joining forces with another company is fantastic, but it can easily hide a whole world of complex tax rules that follow. And with new HMRC regulations now in full swing, even a tiny mistake can lead to some really serious personal and financial trouble. So let's break down exactly what you need to know to stay on the right side of the law.
Right, let's kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention. 7 million. By the end of 2026, that's roughly how many company directors and owners in the UK will need to have their identity digitally verified with Companies House. Now, this isn't just another bit of admin, it's a massive push by the government to clamp down on fraud and make things more transparent. But here's the bottom line for you. If you're one of those 7 million and you miss that deadline, you're breaking the law. Simple as that. This is the foundation for everything else we're about to cover.
So here's our plan for today. We'll start with that big 2026 director mandate. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of merging your company taxes, sorting out your VAT, and navigating the new rules for R&D reliefs. After that, we'll cover the really serious topic of when you as a director can be held personally liable. And we'll wrap it all up with a clear, straightforward action plan you can use. Okay, first up, the 2026 director mandate. Think of this as your very first and most important compliance hurdle after a merger. And as it says on the screen, that deadline is absolutely non-negotiable. Now you'll see this isn't happening all at once. It's being rolled out in phases. From November 2025, if you're a new director, you have to get verified straight away on appointment. If you're an existing director, your deadline is linked to when you file your next confirmation statement, which will be sometime between late 2025 and late 2026. But the final hard stop for absolutely everyone is mid-November 2026. So you see, the clock is well and truly ticking. So how do you actually do it? Well, let's make this simple. The good news is, the process itself is surprisingly straightforward. First, you just use the gov.uk One Login service. It's completely free, and honestly, it only takes a few minutes. Once that's done, Companies House sends you a personal code. Then, and this is important, you have to provide that code for every single directorship you have. And here's a critical warning. Once these rules apply to you, acting as a director without being verified is a criminal offense. It's that serious. All right, you've verified your identity as a director. Now we need to shift gears from your personal duty to the company's challenges. See, after merger, you're not just bringing together staff and services, you're combining entire financial histories and tax schedules, and this is where it can get surprisingly complex, often in ways you just don't see coming. Okay, before we go any further, there is one fundamental HMRC rule that you absolutely have to remember. A company's corporation tax accounting period, that's the chunk of time your tax return covers, can never be longer than 12 months. It sounds so simple, right? But believe me, this one little rule causes a massive headache for newly merged businesses. And this slide shows the problem perfectly. A single company, easy. It usually has a nice, neat 12-month period and files one tax return. But let's imagine a real-world scenario. Say there's a Manchester engineering firm with a December year-end, and it buys a London design studio whose year-end is in June. They merge, and they decide to align everyone to a new December year-end. Well, that means their very first accounting period as a combined company might suddenly be 18 months long. And because of that 12-month rule, they can't just file one big return. They have to file two separate corporation tax returns for that first period, and they have to carefully split all their profits between them. Honestly, this catches so many people out. So, once you've got your head around corporation tax, the next big question is VAT. And this isn't just about paperwork. It's a decision that has major financial and legal implications for your new, larger business. And this is the million-dollar question you have to ask yourself. Should you bundle all the different parts of your business under one single VAT registration? On the surface, it sounds way simpler, and sometimes it is. But, you know, as with most things to do with tax, the devil is always in the detail. It's a really common point of confusion, and it's a decision that you need to think about very carefully with your tax advisor. Right, let's look at the trade-offs. The upsides are pretty tempting. You only have to file one VAT return for the entire group, which definitely cuts down on the admin. Even better, you don't have to charge VAT when you supply goods and services between the companies inside your group. But, and honestly, this is a huge but, we have the major downside, joint and several liability. My tip, please do not underestimate this. It means that if just one company in your group can't pay its VAT bill, HMRC has the legal power to chase every other company in that group for the entire debt. It ties all your fortunes together in a very real and potentially very risky way. Now, for all you innovative businesses out there, this next bit is for you. If your newly merged company does any kind of research and development, you really need to get up to speed on the recent changes to the R&D tax relief system. The whole landscape has changed, and it's another layer of complexity you need to plan for. So the main thing to know is this. The old two-scheme system, one for small and medium businesses, another for large companies, is gone. It's been replaced by a single merged R&D scheme for everyone. Now, the government called it a simplification, but for a company that's just merged, it means you're now playing a whole new ballgame with a new set of rules.
So why does this matter so much right after a merger? Well, let's go back to our example. The big Manchester engineering firm was probably claiming under the old large company scheme, RDDEC. The smaller London design studio, on the other hand, was likely using the more generous SME scheme. Now that they are one company, they can't just carry on as they were on separate tracks. They have to come up with one single unified R&D claim strategy that works under the new merged scheme's rules. And that means a complete review of everything they do.
Okay, stay with me here. This next part is probably the most serious thing we'll discuss, and you will want to hear this. We've talked about compliance for the company, but now we're talking about you, the director. We're going to look at the situations where tax problems don't just affect the business, but they can come directly for you personally. I'm going to read this next bit directly from HMRC's own guidance, and I really want you to let this sink in. You're personally responsible to pay the penalty amount. This is not some theoretical risk. HMRC can, and they absolutely will, issue these notices. This bypasses the limited liability of your company and puts your personal assets, your home, your savings, right on the line. Now, for the really big companies, we're talking turnover above £200 million or a balance sheet over £2 billion. This personal responsibility is baked into something called the Senior Accounting Officer regime. An SAO has to personally sign off to HMRC that the tax setups are appropriate. But, and here is the crucial part for every other director, even if your business is nowhere near that size, HMRC can still hit you with personal liability notices in really serious cases, like tax evasion, or if you've been involved in multiple businesses that have failed, leaving tax debts behind. The idea that the director pays is being used much, much more widely now. So, after all that complexity and all that serious talk about risk, where on earth do you go from here? Well, this final section is all about turning that worry into a clear plan. We're going to pull all these different threads together into a simple, practical action plan that will help you move forward with confidence. Here it is, your post-merger tax checklist. First things first, don't put it off. Get your director identity verified. Second, sit down and map out your new corporation tax periods so you don't fall into that to-return trap. Third, make a formal written-down decision about your VAT grouping strategy. Fourth, review all your combined R&D work under the new single scheme. Fifth, take a hard look at your company's tax processes to protect yourself from personal liability. And finally, and I can't stress this enough, this is the most important point on the list, seek expert advice before you do anything. Don't try to figure all this out on your own. And on that note, please do take a moment to read this important disclaimer. All the information we've gone through today is for general guidance. It's accurate as of January 2026, but tax laws can and do change. It really shouldn't be your only source of information when you're making big financial decisions for your business. Every single business is different, and your situation is unique. For advice that is specifically tailored to your company's needs after a merger, we really do encourage you to get in touch with the expert team at My Tax Accountant. You can see their details on the screen right now. Thank you so much for your time today. For more of these essential updates that are crucial for UK business owners, please do subscribe to the My Tax Accountant channel.